Hey guys, welcome back to Jason's Virtual Weather School. I'm meteorologist Jason Fraser, a meteorologist at the NBC affiliate here in Cleveland, Ohio. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about sunrises and sunsets. But as always, I'd like to get started with something funny, a joke. Here we go. What is a king's favorite form of precipitation? Ready? Four, three, two, one. Hail! Get it? Kings like to be hailed. All right. I thought that was funny. So, as always, if you have a question, comment, concern, maybe a short speech or a long speech, feel free to leave a comment right below here, or you can always email me at jfrazer@wkyc.com. That is jfrazer@wkyc.com. So here is today's class outline. We're going to be talking about what exactly a sunrise is, what is a sunset, why do those times seem to change every day, and what causes the color of the sky to change during a sunrise or a sunset. So first things first, where is the sun exactly? I know a lot of people will look up and say, well, obviously it's right up there. It's in the sky. But where is it exactly? Well, it is actually 93 million miles away from the Earth. That is very now, there are two things that happen on a regular basis, okay? So the Earth is rotating, right? Similar to this water bottle, it rotates. And then on top of that, it also moves around the sun. So let's pretend this thing right here, the sand, is the sun, and we are the Earth. Technically, we should be the other way because we're at a 23.5 degree tilt. But okay, so the Earth goes like this. And what ends up happening is the Earth will continue to rotate as it's also rotating around the Earth. It doesn't stay in the same place. And actually, the rotation is more of an oval shape rather than a circular shape. So we have a couple of things that we in the science community refer to where the sun is versus where the Earth is. So I want to talk a little bit today about aphelion. And aphelion basically happens in July. It happens during the summer every year. And this is when the Earth is about 94.5 million miles away. Now, for some of you, you might be scratching your head because you're thinking, well, wait a minute. Our summer actually happens when the Earth is the farthest from the sun? Yes, it does. And it all depends on the sun's rays and the tilt of the Earth. Then we have something called perihelion. All right. And perihelion happens usually during the winter, right? It happens usually during the month of December. And that is when we are closest to the sun. And that is when we are still about 91.5, give or take, million miles away from. Now, again, I mentioned this before, but the Earth is tilted and it rotates. All right. Now, because of this rotation, all right, again, I'm going to have my trusty water bottle here. Oopsie. It actually, it'll actually impact what type of sunlight we see and when we see it, right? Because let's say the Earth is right there, right? And it's tilted this way, right? Who gets the most amount of sun? The people who are here. But if the Earth is tilted this way, who gets the most amount of sun? The people who are actually right up above here. So this really impacts not only seasons, but it also impacts the temperature through. So on this other note of where the sun is, the light that is given off by the sun is actually on an 8-minute delay. All right. So because the sun is so far, the light travels, but because of that, okay, light only travels about 186,000 miles per second, right? That's still very fast, but there's still going to be a delay because of how far we are away from the sun. Now, because of that, sunrises and sunsets, you could argue, are technically on a delay, right? So because the light doesn't really disappear when it does, it actually happened 8 minutes ago. So for sunrises, this actually happens every morning, and the times actually change due to the Earth's tilts as well as the seasons that we're in. You might have heard of daylight saving time, where we of course adjust the clocks. Yeah, that is all due to seasons. Now, usually the earliest sunrises that we'll see on the eastern seaboard are around 6:28, and the latest are usually around 7:45ish. Usually we see the earliest sunrises during the summer months, and usually we see the latest sunrises during the winter months. But because of the time change that happens, this actually adjusts some of those times. Now, for sunsets, this actually happens every evening, of course, right? The sun goes from the sky and then it looks like it goes down. Now, the time also changes again because of the Earth's tilt and seasons. And the earliest sunrises that we'll see here on the eastern side of the United States usually happen right around 4:28 in the early either evening or afternoon, depending on when you think the evening and afternoon and starts. Now, the latest sunsets we usually see will be right around 8:30. And again, those are usually in the summer months. Usually the earliest ones that we'll see are usually in the winter. Now, if you're like me and you love daylight, particularly sunlight, obviously, there are a couple of places throughout the earth that do have 24 hours of straight daylight. Yes, that means it never gets dark. The sun is always in the sky. Now, that usually happens very, 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 very far north from where we are in the United States. It does happen in parts of Alaska as well as Canada. So if you ever want 24 hours of daylight. It usually also happens during the summer months as well. If you want that, you're going to have to travel very far north. So, what exactly is a sunrise and a sunset, right? It usually refers to the uppermost ray of the sun on the horizon. And if you look at this picture, basically it's a very fancy way of just talking about these little rays that you'll see right there. Yes, that's what we're talking about, right? Okay. And again, it's important to that the sun during sunrise and sunset, it doesn't actually change color. The sun does, for the most part, have that yellowish reddish color. All right. But the reason why it'll change, where it looks changing, is because of our position relative to the sun. All right. That makes it seem like it's a slightly different color. And the best way to really explain it is let's say, for example, this light that you see up here, right? You see how the light right there seems white, but down here kind of seems like an off white, even maybe even a brownish color. That is the same thing that happens with the sunrise and sunset. Depending on how far we are and what else is going on, it can actually make it look like it's a different color. Now, the sunrise and sunset colors also change due to the clouds that are in the sky and the water droplets, right? Because light comes in, and depending on where that light is going, it can actually be refracted by the clouds. So sometimes you'll be able to see these like really cool pinkish, purplish colors like you do in that picture right there. It all depends on how many water droplets in clouds. So before I leave today, I want to share with you a random factoid, and this involves sunrises versus sunsets. Now, usually sunsets are more colorful, they're prettier than sunrises. And I'm not taking away anything from sunrises, but the reason why sunsets usually are prettier is because of those colors, the pinks, the purples, the reds, the yellows that you see. And the reason why you tend to see those colors is because of what we call longer wavelengths. And those longer wavelengths can be seen at different times of day by your eye. And this is all because of either pollution, right, which comes from factories and cars, and it can also be due to other weather systems that are moving across. We tend to see a lot more activity in certain parts of the United States in the afternoon time than we do in the morning time. And that's not to say that we'll always see something in the evening, but usually because of weather patterns and heating and whatnot, we tend to see some more storms during the afternoon and early evening than we do in the early morning hours. So, if you ever want a very colorful picture of the sky, your best bet is to do it later on in the day rather than at the beginning of the day. All right, so I've covered a lot today. Tomorrow, I am going to take off a little bit of time, but our next class resumes on Monday, and we are going to be talking about earthquakes, why they happen, where they happen, and did you know they can actually happen at any place at any time? But there are certain parts of the world where they do see more earthquakes than others. We're going to highlight those. We're also going to highlight what exactly you can do to prepare for an earthquake because everyone should be preparing an earthquake. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can feel free to tag me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, as well as Snapchat at Jason Fraser TV, or you can drop me an email at jfraser@wkyc.com, or you can just leave a comment right there. I hope that you have a marvelous day, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye now.